Welcome to the Launch to Impact Leadership Podcast. My name is Dr. Keena, a leadership development coach, author, and former nonprofit administrator. I teach emerging leaders how to master the skills needed to effectively engage their staff, strengthen teams, accelerate performance, and position themselves for long-term success. Now, before we get started, be sure to tap that follow button right now because practical leadership insights are waiting for you in every episode. Today, we're going to be exploring an often misunderstood tension in leadership, and that is how to be compassionate without ignoring expectations. I remember earlier in my career, I was working with someone who was going through a really difficult time in her life, and it was actually the anniversary of a significant loss. In a moment of frustration, I ended up saying something that I had heard so many times, and that was, you have to be able to separate work from home. Well, since then, I have learned that not only wasn't the best approach at the time, but the truth is you really can't separate the two. You do have to learn, however, to push through your hard times so you can show up and fulfill your responsibilities. Now, as a leader, at any moment, you or any one of your team members has the potential to be carrying significant personal and professional burdens that bleed into your work. But if you lead from the heart, that can weigh on you and quickly settle on your shoulders too. Now, this doesn't mean that any of you are exempt from your responsibilities, and that is where we get it messed up. Empathy is essential for connection, but without boundaries, empathy can bring on exhaustion or diminished performance. So what I want to do is talk a little bit about how to maintain a sense of balance between these two, because they do not have to be mutually exclusive. You can have empathy and be compassionate while also holding people accountable for their responsibilities. Now, many leaders confuse empathy with absorption. Empathy allows you to feel with people, but absorption feels for them and then causes you to hold on to what was never yours to carry in the first place. So here's a couple signs that you've crossed that line. You might leave a conversation emotionally heavier than when you started. You start solving problems that your team never even asked you to fix, or you resent the very people that you're trying to lead. All of these are signs that you've crossed over and now you are absorbing what was never yours to carry. Empathy says, I see you, but absorption says, I must save you. And only one of these is sustainable in leadership. So what I'd like to offer to you is when you're having a difficult conversation or a difficult meeting with someone, you need to ask yourself, what belongs to them and what belongs to me? And then release these things and respond accordingly. You see, leaders often tend to confuse compassion with an absence of consequences. Compassion offers support for meeting the requirements, but an absence of consequences overlooks the requirements. Only one of these is sustainable. And oftentimes, leaders choose these unhealthy, unhelpful approaches because they seem easier than actually having the hard conversation. And that might be true in the short term, but in the long term, it is not what is best for anyone. When we lead from a healthy place of empathy, we don't carry our teams, we equip them. And instead of absorbing every burden that they have, we're asking empowering questions of them. Like, what support would help you to move forward? Or what's within our control today? Or how can we measure the things that we need to put in place, or what measures do we need to put in place so that we can assist you with fulfilling your assignments? These are the kinds of things that will allow you to still hold people accountable, allow your team members to still be responsible for what they need to do, while you can also show a measure of compassion and empathy for whatever their specific set of circumstances might be. Now, sometimes people don't know exactly what they need, or they might not be able to tell you or even understand what support could be available to them. So here's a couple of examples that I'll offer to you, and then you can figure out how it applies to your specific context. Hold that thought for a second. Would you do me a favor and share a screenshot or a post of this episode on your social media accounts and then tag me? I'd love to celebrate your leadership journey with you. Let's hop back in. For example, you may shift someone's schedule that is having a hard time and they have some additional responsibilities with their family, and maybe you're able to allow them to come in a little bit later and shift the end of their day or shift the start of their day, whatever you need to do so that they can still maintain whatever their workload is, but also be able to respond to whatever these temporary obligations are. You might be open to reassigning a public-facing employee to tasks that allow them to work alone for the day. If you have someone that is really sad and they're trying to push through, you might not want them to be the receptionist at the front desk. And so what else can you assign them to do so that they're able to show up and still be responsible, but also give you the opportunity to care for that employee and provide a human touch? Maybe you want to allow someone to work with you on prioritizing what their tasks are, or revisit the meeting frequency or times that you have with them so that you can give them a little extra grace. There are a number of ways that you can apply compassion and empathy without completely overlooking what somebody's responsibilities are. So empathy that empowers creates capacity for people. And that's what we really want to do. We want to create capacity for them and create capacity for your organization. Team members want to feel seen and strengthened. They don't necessarily want to be rescued, and they definitely don't want to be replaced. But truthfully, you also need to be sure that you are caring for yourself while leading your team. And the more responsibilities you have, I'll be honest with you, the more boundaries are necessary. And I want you to see boundaries as a form of care. Boundaries aren't barriers, they're guardrails that protect your calling. And so I want you to think about the 3 R's for healthy boundaries. The first R is to recognize your limits. Know the emotional capacity of your day. We all can only carry and respond to so much. So know what your limits are and guard those. Respect your limits. That's the second R. So you're going to recognize your limits. You're going to respect your limits and say no to what drains your purpose. You know how much capacity you have. So guard that, respect that. And then you're going to reinforce those boundaries consistently. Clarity today prevents resentment tomorrow. If you are consistent in the way that you operate, the way that you handle your team, they will understand that that is an innate boundary that you have and a significant part of who you are. Thus, there is no need for resentment because you're not dishing these boundaries out haphazardly. But this is a consistent boundary that you have, so it's not personal. And ultimately, the resentment that people tend to carry, it comes from feeling like things are inconsistent and they are very much personal. So communicate your boundaries early and graciously. Say something like, you know what, I want to give this my best energy, so let's schedule it for tomorrow when I can be fully present. That kind of communication is not careless, it's actually considerate. And it allows you to lead from a full cup. You cannot pour out what you have not poured in. The day of wearing fatigue like a badge of honor is over and should be forever put to rest. Burnout does not prove your devotion. It proves imbalance and misplaced priorities. Burnout is actually often a sign that you have an unhealthy view of your own value. So schedule some time for renewal as intentionally as you schedule other obligations. Maybe you can have a 15-minute quiet time each day. You know, our hourly employees, they get breaks. They take those breaks. We are legally required to make sure they get their breaks. But as leaders, as salaried employees, unfortunately, we often miss or skip our breaks. But take a break, at least one break a day, to give yourself some quiet time. No phones, no reports, just quiet, calm, breathing, reflecting, maybe even a power nap. You also want to designate some digital Sabbaths. Once a week, log off for 24 hours, or you know what? If that's too much, just commit to putting all your devices away at a certain time each night and not logging on first thing in the morning, but giving yourself some time to be away from all of the notifications, all of the alerts, all of the pinging and the ponging, all of the blue light. Give yourself a digital Sabbath. And then model some healthy limits so that your team believes that they can do the same thing too. When they see that you're doing it, they're going to be open to doing it for themselves. Ultimately, empathy without boundaries just becomes exhaustion, and boundaries without empathy lead to isolation. Healthy leaders have to live in the balance between the two. So this week, I want you to listen deeply, but don't carry everything. Rest regularly so you can respond wisely and model the boundaries that support both you and your team. Thank you for listening to the Launch to Impact Leadership Podcast. I'm grateful you spent this time with me today. Now, if you're ready for tools, coaching, or community to accelerate your success, visit me at www.launchtoimpact.org. My name is Dr. Keena, and until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep building momentum. Take care.